Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Real Christians Podcast. Not just another podcast for Christians, but for unbelievers and skeptics as well. We're just ordinary guys trying to be real Christians, discussing real faith, real life issues, and knowing the real Jesus. Welcome. We have got some things queued up for today. Not things. We got one thing. It's called forgiveness. What do we do? How do we forgive people, Ryan, when they've wronged us? We almost hate them. We despise what they've done to us. We resent the fact that they could treat us the way that they are doing it. Why don't they get it? Why don't they know me? Something's wrong with them. I'm just never going to get along with this person. And they're your dad, your son, your daughter, your mom, your whatever, your friend,
coworker, your boss.
Yeah. And everything was good. And then, or maybe they've never been good. And why are you still around? And what is it that's keeping you from enjoying your time with them and seeing them in a good light? Right? So in a good light.
This is something that we all deal with, Doug. And we will continue to deal with this until the end of time.
So the opposite of forgiving somebody would be somebody who holds a grudge, right? Mm-hmm. Like, since you did this, I'm not gonna like you. Mm-hmm. You burned a bridge with me. Some things I can tolerate, some things I can't. You crossed the line. You hurt my feelings. How am I supposed to forgive somebody like that? Is that?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Am I asking me?
Are you asking me? Did I do something? Or
Ryan, I've got something to tell you, man. It's been bothering me for a long time.
It's my hair.
I'm going to forgive you for it.
Okay.
But seriously.
No, absolutely.
I've heard it in church. I've heard the importance of forgiveness. And why is it important, Ryan?
Well, first and foremost, what does God do, and what does God say
about forgiveness?
About forgiveness. So let me ask you this: when you became a believer, what did God do? Did He forgive you of all your sins?
He did. He forgave my sins.
Absolutely, He forgave you for things that you haven't even done yet.
Yeah.
So the sheer fact that we have been completely forgiven by our Heavenly Father, who we continue to sin against, continue to break. I'm careful to say break His heart, because He knows how we are, but He doesn't want us to be that way. But He continues to forgive us.
So you're saying, in order for me to forgive somebody else, I have to think about what God did in forgiving me.
Yeah, because who are you to not extend the same forgiveness for what has been shown to you?
Yeah.
So do you feel that yourself is bigger and better and all more knowing than God and in all that kind of sense? And now I am not saying that we are better and able to do more of what God can do. What I'm trying to say is that we need to be mindful of who we are and what we have done to an ever-loving God, but yet He loves us so much that He went ahead and forgave us of that stuff, of everything that we've ever done and will ever do.
You mean even the stuff that I don't really talk about? Oh. Even the stuff that I wouldn't say out loud that I did that only He knows?
Yeah, He's already forgiven you for all that stuff. And imagine knowing those dark things that everybody has in their closet. He has forgiven you for those things. So, and I think, and I'm using that as a starting place because that's the only place we really can start, because we have to realize who are we, because you and I and everybody listening on this podcast, all of us have done something to somebody, whether it's personally, whether it's God, whether it's whoever, And then how do we want to be treated when we've been done wrong?
Even illegal things,
And the illegal.
illegal things, even things that would put me in jail, things that would,
Yeah, all of it.
all of those things.
All of it. You know, so I think that is a starting point to know who we are, that we have wronged other people. We've wronged a loving God, but yet that same forgiveness has been given to us. And I think that's a great place to start.
I agree. I attended a men's retreat, and they had this part where you write down. They hand out these little pieces of thin paper and a pen, and said, write down the people in your life that you would like to forgive, people that have wronged you. And everybody was all quiet. It was, I don't know, 50 people. And I'm like writing down 2 names. I wrote down 2 names, and one of them was my dad. And so then you go up and nail it to the cross. Everybody nails it to the cross, and then they take this big cross and they take it outside and they plant it in the ground, and then they ignite it, and they say a prayer, and they ignite it, and all those prayers symbolically are vanished. All those
Injustices.
feelings and injustices that you feel like have been done by these people you wrote their name on are gone. And it's a symbol, but I'm really big on symbols. Where, like, even when I was baptized, Pastor Glenn was like, you know, this isn't like, this is a symbol. This is not like, don't expect all of a sudden to be moved or some crazy miracle to happen. It's just an outwardly expression of your faith towards God. And but for me, no, I was like, from that day on, I'm like, I have to do this. And the same thing with the forgiveness. So I had to learn how to. I felt a weight lifted, because initially that I forgiven him. And what am I forgiving him for? Just generational differences. I mean, it comes from the Great Depression era, born in the 30s. And so it took me a long time to realize, God showed me that the importance of, don't blame him. I mean, look what he did for you. He raised you the best he knew how. He broke away from us, all these positive things, right? And then it made it easier for me to go, I'm not like, he doesn't get me, he doesn't understand me. He talks down to me. He, controls things. And I'm like, that's just part of who he is. And I'm going to love him anyway. So for me, the forgiveness part for my dad was powerful, and it's changed my life. It's changed my life, literally, to where when I go out and visit him, I don't think negative things. I overlook things. I show him grace. I go, let me show you. I know that I've told you maybe 10 other times, or we said that earlier, and now you're asking again, annoying things, and you go, that's okay. Let me, and it's easy. It's easy for me to show him love and grace, despite the fact that he and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And that was very rewarding for me.
That's good. No, I think it's great, because you have to remember, what is forgiveness, Doug? I mean, that's one of the things when I thought about forgiveness for a long time, I was like, well, what does it actually mean to forgive? And does it mean that I have to completely forget everything that they have ever done to me?
Right, forgive and forget. People, forget. So it doesn't mean you have to forget, right?
No, absolutely not. It doesn't mean to forget. We have these natural things in us to kind of keep us from being harmed again, because that's your situation was one thing. What if, and I don't know this, I mean, I'll never put myself in someone's shoes in regards to this situation. It's the first one that came to mind. But let's say you're raped, or, you've been beaten up or something like that, some kind of big injustice.
Somebody killed your loved one.
I mean, so how do you forgive those situations and those feelings? And it's not about forgetting what happened, but it is about forgiving, which is stop feeling angry and resentment towards someone.
Yeah,
So it's getting rid of those feelings than it is, and not letting it control you. that kind of deal. So, when I think about forgiveness, what you've done, in exactly what you've said, is it has changed your feelings towards your dad, towards the relationship, and things like that. And you're kind of putting some of those things to the past. But I'm sure you haven't forgotten about all the things that originally.
Well,
may
no.
have
In
happened.
fact, there are even things that when we go visit and have time together that annoy me, and that I'm having to go. That's okay. That's okay. Opposed to normally it'd be like, God, that's another thing I can't stand. We gotta go. I can't stand being here.
Yeah.
It's not that anymore.
Good.
But it does trigger you, and it triggers me to the point where I go, okay, I got it. But when I get in that zone of remember, Doug, you forgave him, and I have to remind myself that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's good because we need to be constantly reminded, and it is going to be something that we're constantly going to be working through. But I said we started with remembering what God had done for you, but we're also commanded to forgive. It's not an option as Christians.
So explain.
Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. That's not an option. That's a command. Matthew 6:15, but if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. That's talking about God.
That's quid pro quo right there, buddy.
Absolutely. So, and we'll keep going. Matthew 18:21-22. Then Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? And Jesus replied, as many as 7 times. Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times, or 70 times 7 times.
Yeah.
It depends on what version you read, but he says 70 times 7, and it's not a number. It's what Jesus was not saying. Hey, 140, whatever that 144,000 times, or 144 times.
Yeah.
He's saying 70 is a complete number. That's what 70 represents in Scripture. It's completeness. So completeness times 7, which is a holy number. So this is a complete and holy. There is no number to forgive. You continue to forgive completely.
It's endless.
It is endless.
Yeah. It's not like, all right, I did it once.
I say that we are commanded to forgive. And I think the reason we're commanded is because God has forgiven us. And so who are we to not extend forgiveness to somebody else?
Yeah, it's like it's a hypocrite. And that's the trigger for me. It's like, oh my God, you don't even know what you're doing. And it's that trigger of, wait a minute. You're not walking in the shoes. Maybe there's something, so that initial reaction to try to, diffuse the anger, when you're, okay, so that we're just talking about people who've wronged you, but if God commands you to forgive, if you don't forgive somebody, if you hold on to it, I already know the answer. You guys probably heard that. What would you say if you don't forget your experiences? Do you have any to pull people know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, first and foremost, unforgiveness is a sign of pride. Because that is a sign that you're the one trying to be in control of your own things, and your own feelings are more important than somebody else's.
That ain't my fault. Hey, look, that's on you.
Exactly. So it's a pride deal. Now, I pulled this out of John Hopkins medicine information, and I've known this, but I just wanted to put some backing behind it. They said unforgiveness or unresolved conflict, it affects our personal health. When they deal with chronic anger, it affects your stress, anxiety, heart rate, blood pressure, immune responses, risk of depression, heart disease, and diabetes. So unforgiveness not only is it's a sin, but God also knows that it will actually do physical harm to your body.
It'll cause you stress.
Stress, and heart disease.
Yeah.
Depression.
Yeah.
Think about all the people that are dealing with things. Now, I am no medical person, and I'm not going to claim that I know everything that's going on in people's lives. Some of them are chemical imbalances, there are other things. But in some cases, some of it can be due to unforgiveness in people's lives, something that they've held on to for family members, for parents, for all their lives. And it has done a wreck. It's done a number on their body. And if it does that if it stresses the body that much, I can't help but think that cancer can just come in and creep in while the body is defenseless.
Yeah, it hardens your heart. I mean, it makes it, I would say, calloused. And once you've denied and not admitted that that it's your fault or that it's a perspective thing. It's almost like I can, people say, you're in a difficult situation. There's only one way to get out of that. Change your perspective.
Yeah.
And so that to me is along the lines of forgiveness. Like, how can I not go to work or go visit family or friends and this person has wronged me and I have to be around them? It is hitting you. It's causing stress. It's making your blood pressure rise. It's making you, paranoid.
Yeah.
All these things and when that's gone and you can go, I don't even think about that anymore. I've forgiven them for that. You say I've forgiven you, and I've actually said that to a coworker once. I'm like, look, I misunderstood you. I said I think you're misunderstood. And I've forgiven you for that, and now I look at you in a new light, and it is looking at somebody in a new light. It's almost like saying, hey, this is now not a person that I've always resented and always avoided. Now I don't own that.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. Well, and you're kind of hinting to another point I was going to make at some point, but unforgiveness, it actually controls you. You don't control it, because when you let it, because you're allowing it to work and affect you personally, affect your mental state and emotional state and all these things. So it controls you. You are no longer in control of your own things because of you're not letting go of something. And I love there's a quote that I found, and I don't remember who said it. Unforgiveness is like swallowing poison and hoping the other person would die. Unforgiveness is like swallowing poison and hoping the other person would die. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You're willing to unforgive does not help the other person.
Right.
Or hurt the other person. It actually hurts you. So when we understand that by us not forgiving, you're hurting yourself, not the other person.
Yeah, it is. It's hurting yourself. The words grudge, holding a grudge, denial, pride, ego. It's hard for a lot of men to admit that they're wrong, right? So when you carry around this, wasn't me, I can prove that I was wrong, I was right, and you were wrong. And you live in this kind of tit for tat kind of life, you know where I'm going, right? It's a quid pro quo. If you do this, I'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no, I remember even my own brother, I'm like, there's nothing you can do. You can try, you can piss me off all you want, but I'm not going to stop loving you.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're brothers, and then when you with your folks or whatever, nice try, you tried to make me hate you, and I'm not going to allow you to do that. And that control, it's a control that you have that I didn't realize I had for a long time, because I'm like, this person is really wronged me. And there's so many wrongs that have been done to me. Have y'all had any of that issues of
I'm sure nobody
somebody
listening
wrong?
has never been
nobody's
wrong.
ever double-crossed you or
said something bad about you,
said something behind your back,
actually physically done something to you.
and you have a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear my name at work, maybe being in a negative connotation, but you know what? It's, for me, it first bothered me because you can't unhear it. I didn't think that person would say that about me.
Yeah.
Then you go, well, wait. I mean, how many times have I maybe been frustrated with somebody and I thought it? He might have just said it out loud, and then giving somebody leeway to have an opinion and to be frustrated and not hold them for every little word that they say. Giving them that grace of like, I've been in that boat before. I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to go out and get revenge. I'm not going to go say, if that's the way you're going to talk about me, I'm going to show you. This whole realm, it's gossip. There's a sin. And it's just pride and ego and look at me when you're like, bless their heart. That little word, I don't know who said it. Well, bless his heart. Just bless his heart. That voice comes to my mind like, bless his heart. And that triggers me to go, he doesn't know better. It's not like he's trying to put a knife into my back. he's just expressing himself, and he doesn't know how to express it in a way that isn't accusatory or negative, right?
No.
So I've learned a couple little steps on a few people, and I'm constantly tested with others to
and you're going to be constantly tested. And here's some other things to kind of remember what unforgiveness does. It produces bitterness in us, and that is not a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
It keeps us
Spite, that's very similar.
It keeps us imprisoned in our past. Keep that in mind.
It keeps us in our past.
Yeah, and that's not where God wants us to be.
No.
And then it leads to this next one.
That's true.
It's giving Satan a foothold. So it's Ephesians 4:26-27, and we can put that up on the screen. But it says, "Don't do anything that gives Satan a foothold into our life." So when we have unforgiveness, he's like, "Ooh, yes, I'm going to use that."
He's the one on your shoulder going, "Did you hear what he said?"
And he's going to put that dagger in you and start twisting it and turning it and keep you there. And he wants you in that unforgiveness.
You're not going to let him get away with that.
It allows him in there.
Yeah.
If we put it out of our mind and forgive somebody, he can't use that against us to get us down in another area.
It sounds crazy, but if you believe in hell,
it's so true.
Then you know that there is a devil that is working and capitalizes on that. And in our mind, we go, yeah. So keep going.
The next one is it hinders our relationship with God. Now, I'm going to read a verse. Now, this one I'm going to read. It's 1 John 4:20-21. And I'm going to back it up, probably even do 19. 19 says, "We love because he first loved us. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. And he has given us this command: anyone who loves God must also love their brothers and sisters." And when you have unforgiveness in your heart and all those feelings and things come up, you have to ask, do you truly love them?
Yeah.
Because you're harboring some kind of hate for something that they've done.
Yeah, what does love mean? What is the definition of loving somebody? And I think, forgiveness is one of those words.
Yeah, go to 1 Corinthians.
That's what I got married. Love is kind, love is gentle, love is forgiveness.
That's exact. Yeah, that's all that.
And you're going, oh.
So it will hinder your relationship with God. So we need to keep that in mind. And the last one I'll say is it can and will negatively, in fact, impact other relationships in your life. So your unforgiveness, let's say it's a family member, and that you have another family member who loves that person and loves you, but yet you've got something going on, some little family triage
You're
going on.
putting them in
awkward situations. Now it's affecting them. Well, I'm not going to go to this party because this family member's over there because something that they've done. Well, now it's affecting everybody else who's at the party and putting them. So that is not loving. That is not a relationship God wants you to be in.
Yeah, by your stubbornness, by your grudge holding, by your I'm not going to let them get away with that, and I'm going to be vocal about it to him and or her and the people that love them, and they know as well. They're going, oh crap, we were going to have a dinner, and now it's going to be awkward, and you're thinking, so it does prevent. That happened for years. I don't know if any of y'all have had brothers or sisters that have. Not follow the path of life that mom and dad wanted or whatever. And there's a little animosity going on there that one of you has to be the one to say, hey, I'm flicking it all like a flea. It doesn't bother me more. I forgive them. I don't even have to tell them I forgive them. I can just act like, hey, what's up, man? And aren't you mad at me? I thought you were all bitter towards me. And you're like, I forget. I don't think about that
Someone
anymore.
has to be the bigger
person. That was
person.
in the past.
Yeah.
When you said about the past, I'm like, that's exactly right. Whenever I try not to look in the past unless it's good so I can get my confidence up, right? But all the negative things and all the things, I try to just put it behind you.
We know what it does to us. So then how do we forgive?
Oh, yeah. I asked God.
Oh, that's a good place to start.
To help me.
Yeah. No.
And that worked for me.
Yeah. No, because we need his help because we're still human. And everything I'm saying to you and everybody out here, I know it's hard. And I'm not, because I deal with it myself. I have to remind myself, so I'm not trying to make light of it. it's just these things I'm saying are just more for reminders and to help us through this. But the one thing that I kind of as a remind myself is that forgiveness is not it's a transaction, not necessarily a process. It is something that we just choose to do. And a lot of people think, well, I have to go through this process to forgive somebody. Well, in reality, you don't.
It's like that's like the alcoholics. The first step, I've got to call everybody I've wronged, and there's like laws and rules.
Yeah, there's not. You either choose to forgive or you don't. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be a process, but we have to come to that understanding. It's like we have to choose to forgive. Okay? Because when we physically make that choice to forgive, that's when it all starts, and that's when it happens.
So what would you tell somebody who's like, I believe you guys. I think there's some people in my life I agree that I need to forgive, but I mean, the distance and the reputation you have for making your stance is so ingrained in you, and you're actually identified with it. So how do you how do you forgive somebody?
Actually, my first bullet point is ask God to help you.
Is there any other? I mean, there's got any layman term kind of ways of doing it?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it is spiritual, because I think that we got, Satan's using these things to us to keep us, having that relationship with God. So I think a big part of this is a spiritual battle. So acknowledging your unforgiveness is one part, kind of like acknowledging a sin that you've got going on, asking God to help. Remember these Bible verses that we've thrown here that God has commanded you to forgive. And so remember, hey, God, your word says that I'm supposed to do this. So help me, and I'm going to put these into my mind to be this way.
I'm somebody, Ryan, who hasn't talked to. I'm imagining I'm somebody. This isn't personal. I'm somebody who hasn't talked to my sister for over 12 years. We had a falling out, and we've never talked since. Now, I see her on social media, and I'm like, I wish how do you, I would say maybe send him a passive text. Hey, sis, how are you? Yeah. And the thought she might be going, what's going on? Did somebody die?
The question is, why are you reaching out to them?
Why are you suspicious on the other side?
Yeah, exactly. But then what is your goal? Have you forgiven them before you've done that, or are you looking for a response? Yeah,
you trying to. You're like,
are you baiting them?
Right.
You have to forgive them before you even come to them.
Well, okay. Let's just say that you're that person. You haven't talked to your parent for a long time, and I want to reach out to them. Or you are the parent, and I haven't talked to my son or daughter in a long, long, long time. And the further it goes, the worse it gets, and the harder it is to reconcile.
Absolutely.
So
so at some point you have to come to that. You have to make the first point to come to it.
You're the one who has to say, "Look,
God is the one working in you to reconcile this."
Yeah.
And as hard as it may be, and as humbling as it may be, you kind of need to be the one to go out and make the first move. And what I've seen in times is say when you're sitting down with somebody, go, "Hey, I just want to have a heart-to-heart talk." I have been harboring these feelings towards you for this long time.
That's confession, Ryan. You're confessing to them. I have to confess something. I've been whatever
anger. This made me mad now and then. But you have to also acknowledge this. I've felt this way. I've come to this place now with God that I'm putting that in the past.
And you're gonna cry if you do that. You're gonna cry because if you say, I just want to tell you I'm sorry. God, I can't. I'm imagining that I'm a fiction doing this to a kid I haven't seen for 12 years, and it gets me emotional because the amount of time that they've lost, and now you're making that step to say no more.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's powerful.
So, and then coming and just sharing that, and sometimes it's good to say, "Hey, this is what happened that caused me to feel this way, and I just want you to know that. But I'm forgiving everything, and I want to bring restitution to this relationship, and so by doing that, you're the one breaking down the wall, you're letting it go. And I really think that can be part of, and I say it's not a process, but it is a step to help into fulfilling the forgiveness piece of it. But on the reverse side of that, if you're the person who has wronged somebody,
there you go.
You need to be the one to go fix it. And I'll give a personal example of that. When I was in the corporate world, we were sitting around a conference table with all the managers, And there was one guy that just irritated the living snot out of me. I mean, I'm sure it's never happened to anybody else. And I lashed out in a conference room meeting around with everybody else. I lashed out at this one guy. And
You showed him.
Yeah, I showed him, because here's what happened. The director shut the meeting down immediately because of how bad I responded to this whole thing, and we went our separate ways. I closed my door, and I was so mad, and I knew God was talking to me, and
In your anger?
in my anger, and
You just knew. You felt in your stomach, I crossed the line.
It was nasty. And so I knew exactly what God wanted me to do at that moment.
It felt good, though.
No.
Well, I mean, when you, some
thought it
people,
did.
some people get to that point where they go, "Oh, I finally got to say what I felt.
Got this off my
I
shoulders.
got it off my chest." Yes.
Yeah, and it didn't. It maybe for just a split second, but it really didn't feel good. And so I knew what I had to do. And so I walked over to that man's office. I closed the doors, and like you said, I mean, I was weeping, and I just said, what I just did was absolutely wrong, and I'm sorry. And I said, if you can't find it in your heart to forgive me, I will fix it with everybody else that I've talked to that heard it.
What did he say?
He looked at me and smiled. He goes, "You're a Christian, aren't you?" I was like, I said, well, my attitude didn't,
what gave it away?
It didn't look that way in the meeting, but God did speak to me.
How long did you go from the time you did that and you
10 minutes.
10 minutes. So the bounce back rate, the bounce back rate, y'all know it could last 10 minutes, or it could last.
I could have
10
held
years.
on to that for a long time, and and having that guilt would have just destroyed me. And that's a whole nother topic that we can do in a podcast. But he forgave me. We fixed the situation, and we were able to move on. So forgiveness is on both sides. If somebody has harmed you, you need to forgive them.
How did that make you feel when he said, I forgive you? Dude.
Oh, it was a relief off my shoulder. It was like a weight. But I still felt guilty, though.
Did he still annoy you after that?
I can't say that he didn't, but I was able to handle it differently.
Okay.
And
did he, I'm just thinking in perspective here, that he went, I've had other people be annoyed with me too, and this is just another one. Or I can't believe he was annoyed at me. Any self-reflection, or you didn't even care? Or,
I didn't care. That's not my where I was at the time. I just wanted to get this one off my chest because that's what I needed to do. And then, honestly, I had to forgive myself at some point because that still haunted me.
You're like, dang it, that's a thing in time that I'm always going to remember.
Yeah,
that
absolutely. And the
devil
to
this day,
the devil tries to bring that up to me, and I'm like, no, I forgave. He forgave me. It's in the past. It's gone. And so forgiving ourselves is a big piece to this whole thing as well, because there are things in our past and things that we've done that we just can't forgive, and that keeps us hold back.
There is a difference. We don't have much time left in this show, but there is a difference between, some people need to be told, like if there's justice issues or there's wrongdoings and you're resentful and you've tried to resolve the issue, and one or two people have just given you the brick wall, like, nah, I'm not going to. I mean, there's a point where you think, how do I can't. It's still going on, and something needs to be said, and I need to say it in a way that articulates that this is wrong. And I hear you're saying that you're not going to do anything about it, but I just need, it's now you have to be rational and calm. And how do I explain this? Because I really, really want to forgive you, but if you can't hear me, and actually, because you want them to do something, right? You think that something needs to be done. And I'm trying to telepathically let you know the situation I'm talking about that occurred, that that I went, this person is causing so much problems. Why isn't anybody doing anything about it? And they've been told by many people. They've been told by lots of other people and lots of other people. And so therefore, in my mind, I've chosen to forgive that they have the inability to do anything about it. That it's not, maybe they don't know what to do about it. Maybe they're waiting to do something, and it's not in your time. It's in their time. Like, I think you should do something right now, and they're going,
And the Bible does that, and I'm trying to find the verse on it, but it does say in with your own ability, Try to make restitution with everybody else. But if they refuse to do anything with it, that's not on you. You have done your best to try to reconcile the situation. At that point, you need to let God handle the situation.
You know what I'm thinking about?
I know exactly what you're thinking about.
I'm thinking about Pharaoh. I'm thinking about
Joseph.
Aaron and Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Went. I'm telling you, you need to let our people go so that we can worship our Lord. And if you don't, my God's saying things are going to happen to you. And Pharaoh's like, okay, whatever, go. And then the thing happened. And he came back. What? How many times? 7.
10.
But 10.
There's 10
Long.
plagues.
Okay, so even in the 4th or 5th one, you would think that they would go, look, dude, but they repeated themselves in the same calm manner. Pharaoh, I need you to let our people go so we can worship. It was very repetitive, and it didn't sound like it was building up. It was still saying, I don't know why I thought that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Because you're thinking it needs to be done now, and I don't know how long it went. All those plagues took before you parted the Red Sea and they all drowned and all that. But a long time, and I'll bet you even God was, maybe the 3rd time we'll do it. I don't know. But you'd think that it needs to be done sooner, but there was a plan behind it, is my point. There's a plan behind it that you're not aware of. So if you find yourself in a situation that I need to tell somebody, I'll forgive them for the wrongdoings, but I need to be the voice piece that says, this is what's happening. And there's nothing wrong with that,
No.
right?
Romans 12:18. If it is within your power, make peace with all people. If it is possible, as much as it is up to you, be at peace with all men as much as you can. Live in peace with everybody. So all it's saying is, try to be at peace with everybody. That's not gonna happen. But you want to make sure you have nothing on yourself. Go do your job.
Look at your closet and make sure that
You do what you're supposed to do.
Don't stink.
You don't worry about someone else.
Right.
Let God handle that.
That's true. As soon as you accuse somebody or blame, make sure that you don't have anything that they can go, oh yeah, well, what about?
Yeah, and let me tell you, last thing before we close is
Yeah.
that, I think you brought up a good point, but there are multiple stories within the Scripture about forgiveness and about how people have been wronged and how forgiveness can go and read those stories.
Yeah.
The story of Joseph and his brothers, back in Genesis, was it 43 through 47?
Oh, gosh,
There's a lot of them. So God has given us all the things we need to kind of get to that point, use the resources that he's given us. But forgiveness is such a powerful thing.
It is, and it's not easy to do. So you have to be the one. I mean, you really do have to be the one that says, I really wish they would say I'm sorry first because they were the one who were in wrong. But the fact that you can say, I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys ever done that where you apologize first, even though it wasn't your fault. The other person goes, you know what? I'm sorry too.
Yeah.
It builds that, but you have to be the one that starts it.
Yeah, be the
first one.
the
All you
first.
Christians are that way. You always see the
that's
light
what we're
side of it.
supposed to be.
But that's how we're supposed to represent. And
Christ
guess
to
what?
the world.
There's only so many years in our lives, and if you spend a lot of years, decades in conflict with somebody that you've not forgiven, I know that you think it's time. You got to do something. Don't wait for them. It's got to be you. It's going to be hard. You're going to have some kahunas, and you're going to have to say, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to ask God to help me do this, and I need to just do it. Don't wait.
Yep. And I'll say one other thing.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge you. If y'all have any unforgiveness about a person, I want you to pray for that person.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard to stay mad. It's very hard to hold unforgiveness when you're praying for them.
Now, we're not talking about, I pray, Lord, that you just
Will strike them down.
Strike them down. Not that. It's the opposite,
the
actually,
opposite.
which
We want
is
to pray
strange.
a blessing for them.
Find
Pray.
joy in their lives.
Yep,
Help them
exactly.
to see what their wrongdoings are and that they can find grace and show grace. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
All
That's
right.
perfect. Good stuff, man.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking around on our forgiveness episode.
Don't forget to like, share, comment. We'd love to hear your comments on anything that you else have on this.
Until next time, everybody, you know what to do.
Appreciate you watching and listening.
That's right.
Have a great day.
You too. I mean,
You too. Yeah, them too.
Okay. I get confused sometimes. Who am I talking to? All right, y'all. Be good.